So let's get right to the point. Point here is that I think there's 3 different types of styles of selling of insurance that you can do. And part of this process is just to briefly explain how they work, brief pros and cons, to allow you to decide kind of what process works best and might work best for your personality type. So the first one here is what I call the pump and dump. All right, so I remember working with a guy, an insurance agent. He's like a top level guy with a very big final expense organization. He was sharing about how this guy in Alabama was selling insurance. And his process, he'd come in, do a little small talk, and then he would just simply write 3 prices down and then the coverage amount and ask them which one they want. He did all this without education, without the whole approach to differentiation or any of that stuff. But it was, in a sense, I think, the power of the guy's personality, the authoritative approach that he had, that led him to this style, I guess you could say, which on its surface seems like there's no style. It's just coming in and pitching. Not really even pitching, it's just closing. But the guy did okay. You know, he was in the business for a while, the last I checked, and it worked well for him. And so obviously the pros here is that this approach, you know, it may not be this simplified, but this style of approach where you come in and you're very, you use a lot of assumptive language. You do most of the talking. There's very little education. You're rebuttaling. You're aggressive. Does work. It's old-fashioned, so to say. But for some people, it actually works well. It depends on the market you're in. I think the less sophisticated buyers, that kind of stuff works well with. I think the cons are these days, that's being an old style of selling just doesn't work as well because people now have options. They have access to information. They know that there's always another insurance man around the corner to some extent. And so they're going to be less inclined to take an aggressive angle. Plus, the problem with selling insurance that way is that you can push a lot of people into buying insurance, but not the next day or the next month or two. You know, they can change their mind at any time, and now you've got a big chargeback. Multiply that by 25, 35% of your book of business, you're in a lot of trouble. So I don't like this approach. It's funny to listen to people who make sales that way, and I'm sure they do, but I worry, and I've always worried, which is why I don't like aggressive style sales, is that when you're talking insurance, you are always on the hook for quite a while. It's not going to go anywhere. You've got a chargeback risk. You're in a position where you could be on the hook for a while. So why put yourself in that position? Sure, you may close as a percentage more, but as an agent once said, it's not what you sell, it's what you keep. So second style of insurance sale is called the multi-call presentation. So I was reading a book this week, and let me see if I can have it over here in the stack. I don't. It must be out in the room still. I'm just making sure. It's by John Savage. It's called It's Getting Easier. This is another book that he wrote. It's called The Easy Sale. It's got a couple out there. All of this stuff is good. But in the Easy Sale, or It's Getting Easier, it's just a short book on his experience selling insurance. He sells primarily to business owners and others as well. But his approach is that he doesn't sell on the first call. He doesn't want to. And at first blush, you think, well, what's the point in meeting with a person if you're not going to try to sell them on insurance? I mean, he would go so far as not even to talk about insurance. He would do more of like just get to know you, rapport building, semi-fact finder type of approach, usually at breakfast or maybe some kind of meal. And then they would reconvene at his office, and then he would do his sales presentation there based on the facts that he gathered. On the surface, it's kind of silly that why would he want to break something up that he doesn't necessarily have to, but the way Savage explained it was, you know, he was looking to create a clientele. He was looking to create relationships, and that he knew based off of his experience that if he could get a client of that stature, they would continually buy from him, but they would also give him introductions, give him referrals. And his approach in his mind allowed that process to be facilitated more than, say, a one-call close opportunity or to do a call on them in the office on a cold basis. So the strategy works well. I think it's better for some products than others. I think that the higher up in sophistication with your buyers you get, you're going to have to do multiple calls, especially as you get more sophisticated types of products that may be a little more advanced to sell. You know, a lot of what Savage sold was business continuity plans, buy-sell arrangements, estate planning, that kind of thing. And that's not necessarily a one-call close. So there's a lot of moving parts, which usually would make sense that there would be a lot of moving presentations to secure everything that's necessary. Now, as it relates to retail sales, which I'm sure a lot of you probably sell Medicare, you sell final expense, you sell mortgage protection, or other kind of products in the homes of your clients, I don't think this is necessary. In fact, I think the best thing you can do with a prospect is make them a client. Sell them something on the first call. It can be as simple as a grandchild policy. It can be a $5 or $10 accidental plan. If you can make these people a client, a lot of times that helps people eventually feel more trustworthy of buying more insurance from you. I think John Savage's point is clear. The long-term goal of this business is to create clientele. And again, I've seen this too. You'll continually sell more insurance to these people if you do a good job on the first deal. And but it's important to get that first deal. So the point being, maybe a multi-call process doesn't make sense for your particular product if you're selling a standard mass market type of product, but sell something. Make them a clientele. Make them a buying and purchasing person, because they're going to have more needs down the line, and you're going to be the first one in line if you do a good job of selling them what you did, but then you also do a good job of following up and servicing them too. That's really important. So a third and final presentations type in the insurance business is more along the lines of what Steve and I were talking about this morning, kind of like what I teach too. To kind of give it a name, I guess, I would call it the reciprocal value-added presentation. So let me tell you what Steve does, because I think his approach is it's almost to the extreme of what I would do. I wouldn't necessarily do all this, but I'm not going to argue with a man that's closing potentially $500,000 annuity deal. So what Steve does is pretty simple. He has created a piece that helps seniors in the particular county he's in get access and information to different types of programs that are available to them. And this isn't some fluff piece. This is a well-designed document that shows seniors how they can save on medical care, how they can get unbiased advocacy for Medicare-related expenses. It shows how seniors can qualify for no-cost legal aid. So if they're in a particular bind and they need help and don't know where to go, this book shows them how to do it. And it shows them other senior services that are available to people generally over 60 years old. And through this process, it's not like it's just about helping. It certainly is on its surface, and if he left without making a sale, he would help a lot of people. It's a value-added approach. But through this process of showing what's in this book, it allows for this process to reciprocate from the prospects. Information about their financial program, information about their Medicare program, or information about their life insurance coverage. And from this process, what Steve's able to do is that he can generate high-quality leads in the form of annuity deals. He generates Medicare supplement deals. He sells life insurance policies through 1035 exchanges, people who have large cash values in their policies. He shows them how he can roll that over to a single pay plan. And so there's all these opportunities. And again, these are coming off the cold call, so it's fantastic. But the reason it works so well, and this is something that Steve explained to me when he was first teaching me how he does this method. You know, I'm coming from an educational approach, but I don't really deviate from the topic at hand in my sales presentation. I'll talk about that in a minute. But his approach and his explanations is really important. You go through each step of this educational process, because if you do this, what happens is you gain all this information, but you also set yourself up as an expert in this particular category of whatever conversation point you're talking about, which bleeds over to being an expert about insurance-related issues. And through that, of giving information first, then these people feel reciprocated as just a natural human law of behavior to give back information, to provide more information. So what happens is that Steve stumbles across all these different types of opportunities that you really probably wouldn't find if you sent off a postcard. It's a different market. These aren't necessarily the type of people that will reply by direct mailer or a Facebook lead, because they don't necessarily know they've got these opportunities. So Steve goes and does these appointments, does these fact finders, and just through this process of giving so much value in exchange, gets a shot at maybe to see if there's opportunities. Sometimes there isn't, but other times there are these very large opportunities that are just real game changers.